Okay, the title of this video is I Want to Learn Jeet Kune. These are my thoughts on it. You know, somebody recently asked me that, or told me that, I want to learn Jeet Kune. And I think there's a certain approach, the right approach to that. And I want people to gain the understanding. A lot of people have been inspired by Bruce Lee. I've been inspired by him, of course. Fighters have been inspired by him. Jackie Chan has been inspired by him. Donnie Yen has been inspired by him. My former Sifu has been inspired by him. Jet Li has been inspired by him. So, it's going to be safe to say that a majority of the people out there have been inspired by Bruce Lee. But out of all the people that have been inspired by Bruce Lee, who has the authority to teach Jeet Kune? In my eyes, only Bruce Lee can teach Jeet Kune. Nobody else, legitimately. So I say, in my eyes, the only legit way to learn Jeet Kune is from Bruce Lee himself. Now, Bruce Lee's not living and breathing right now. He's only living and breathing through the spirit of those who have been inspired by him. But his teachings are on paper, in book format, and on film. In my eyes, that's the only legitimate way to learn Jeet Kune, directly from Bruce Lee and what he created. Anything that you learn otherwise is just an interpretation of Bruce Lee that has a unique flavor from whoever is given that interpretation. To me, I liken it to, say somebody says, oh, I want to learn how to play basketball. Well, there's a lot of people out there that can teach you how to play basketball. But if you want to say, I want to learn how to play like Michael Jordan, then you got to learn from Michael Jordan himself. Now, Michael Jordan is still living and breathing right now, so if you could find him, you could learn from him. He does have some basketball camps. You could pay thousands of dollars to join those camps and actually learn from Michael Jordan. If you're his son, you can learn from he can learn from his father. Other ways you can learn from him, just watch his basketball games over and over again, slow motion, and just keep learning and learning as much as you can. And I'm sure LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, they were doing that. They might have not have been trained directly by Michael Jordan, but they would constantly watch his videos over and over again and learn from him, and to a point where they ended up competing against him. Now, did Michael Jordan actually teach them? Well, he taught them through his expression in basketball, but he didn't teach them like face to face, like this is how you do this and do that. But nonetheless, they clearly learned from Michael Jordan. Now, if somebody's saying, oh, I want to learn to play like Michael Jordan, but then they go to Scottie Pippen and be like, can you teach me how to play like Michael Jordan? How can Scottie Pippen teach you how to play like Michael Jordan when he's not Michael Jordan? He might have played side by side with Michael Jordan, but it still doesn't make him Michael Jordan. So it doesn't make sense for a person to go to Scottie Pippen to ask Scottie Pippen how to play like Michael Jordan when he is not Michael Jordan. And that's the problem and the issue that I see with Bruce Lee and, say, somebody like Danny Insano. Danny Insano is a martial artist on his own right. He was a martial artist before he even met Bruce Lee. He has his own expression. So if you want to learn Jeet Kune, you cannot learn from Danny Insano, because Danny Insano is not Jeet Kune. Bruce Lee is Jeet Kune. If you're learning from Danny Insano, then it is essentially, the way that I see it, you're learning Danny Insano's expression of the martial arts. And yes, part of his expression has been inspired by Bruce Lee, as in a lot of the people's expression in this world has been inspired by Bruce Lee. You know, he has met Bruce Lee, but so has Linda Lee, so has Shannon Lee, so has Brandon Lee, so have even Jackie Chan met Bruce Lee. So many people have met Bruce Lee, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Chuck Norris. But just because you are taught martial arts from Chuck Norris doesn't mean that you're learning Jeet Kune Do. You're learning Chuck Norris's martial arts. And even if Linda Lee was teaching martial arts, doesn't mean that you're learning Jeet Kune Do. You're learning Linda Lee's martial arts. Even if Shannon Lee was teaching martial arts, you're not learning Jeet Kune Do, you're still learning Shannon's martial arts. That's the way that I see the correct way to learn an art legitimately. The only way that, in my eyes, a label could be passed on legitimately, it has to have the authority and the backing by law and the permission from the creator of the label. So, to me, it's similar to owning a home, owning a car. You own the rights to something. You could sign those rights over to somebody else when you pass away. You have a bank account, you accumulated $100 million, you have the right to pass that money onto another person. Bruce Lee was the only one that has the right to pass on the label of Jeet Kune Do, of which he created, onto the next person to represent it the way that he envisioned. But according to my studies from his work, he did not pass that label on to anybody. Essentially, he even wanted to liberate that label altogether after he created it because of what would be the issue, the result of the corruption of labels after a person's death. So, in my eyes, people that say, I want to learn Jeet Kune Do, then if you really want to learn Jeet Kune Do, you have to do it on your own. Grab the books like this, all his books. Read them, learn it, understand it, watch his movies over and over again, put his movies in slow motion, pay attention to his, watch all his interviews, learn directly from him. And then you could connect with other people that are doing the same thing. And then you could share your ideas and your interpretations of everything that you're taking in. And then you need to develop your own interpretation of whatever is being taught. And no matter how long you've been training, even if you've been training for 10, 20, 15 years, or whatever the case may be, it's still not right for you to call it Jeet Kune Do, because it is not Jeet Kune Do. It might be your interpretation of Jeet Kune Do. And essentially you are creating your own expression in the martial arts. So you could have your own martial art brand. And that's the way that I see, that's the right way to do it. And I brought it up in one of my videos, one of the very first videos, at the introduction of this book, the very beginning, the person Gilbert L. Johnson, says this: inevitably and regrettably, the book may also cause a rash of Jeet Kune Do schools, headed by people who know the reputation of the name and very little about the movement. Think about that.